Welcome to the Leading at the Next Level podcast with Dove Development Consulting, the show built to provide ongoing support for your leadership journey. Today, I get to have a cool conversation with someone that I've been friends with for close to 40 years. Josh Hale and I met, I think it was in either seventh or eighth grade, Josh, somewhere in there when you moved to the area. And while we've not interacted closely over the years, there's always been a pretty good friendship in place. And just over the last 4 or 5, it's been really fun to reconnect and rebuild the friendship that had been there and really see how awesome you are at what you do. I've always respected you, but I've really come to really grow that respect and admiration in watching and interacting with you so closely. Now, Josh, why don't you give a little bit more detailed background so it's not just the personal side? Here's who you are, what you do, and we'll run through some questions. Easy for me to say, right? This is where editing might be fun if I were willing to edit.
Thanks, Wes. I appreciate you having me today. That was in eighth grade that I moved up to Raleigh. Yeah, it's been a long time. Guess we're dating ourselves at that point. But thank you again for having me. I've been here in the Valley ever since graduating college, and trying to calculate in my head before this podcast of how many years it's been. But ever since I graduated from college, I have been in the banking industry. And that's been, I'm going to say we've been 27 years. It's my 27th year in banking. It's all been here in Harrisonburg, Rockingham County, especially serving the Shenandoah Valley. I've been in many different areas of the bank, starting in the retail side of the bank, moved to the business banking world pretty early on in my career. I also had licenses as a financial advisor early on in my career too, and did that for several years, and I let that go. But I've been mainly in commercial banking for most of my career. And now I'm proud to be a part of Pioneer Bank here in Harrisonburg. And Pioneer Bank is a small community bank founded in Page County in 1909. We're a small community bank, and I'm excited to be here. My current role is the market president for Harrisonburg and Rockingham County.
And that's a new role. Cindy and I have had interaction with the team with Pioneer over the years, but your market president role is really new. And it really leads to the question that I'm going to ask you. Josh, I always differentiate leadership and management are two different things. And when we were with a group in South Boston earlier in the week, I said, hey, raise your hand if you've got leadership responsibility. And most of them didn't because they didn't have direct reports, but all of them had some form of leadership responsibility. So for you, you've had leadership responsibility, both formally in roles where you carried authority, but the reality is you serve a lot of people and you take that leadership responsibility with even the clients that you're working with in the commercial lending and the impact that you make with them. Talk about what the purpose has been that's driven you to be able to do that, because leadership can be heavy and really weigh on you sometimes.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. You're right. I've done it formally and informally. And right now my current role is informal, but part of the senior leadership team, which is not just working with my clients, working with what the direction of the bank is and where we need to go and what do we need to do for our employees and a lot of different things. But I would have to say that leadership to me is just really empowering others, allowing them to reach their full potential. I think collaborating with a team is very powerful and something that I really enjoy doing. Watching the success of an empowered team is just amazing. And it really honestly is what motivates me. It's why I get out of bed and do what I do and choose to be in a leadership role.
Cindy and I were blessed to spend a lot of time with you in that leadership team with Pioneer last year in quarterly sessions and so on. And that empowerment theme was heavy. So I love hearing you say that. And the reality is none of us can do it all by ourselves without people around us who are empowered and know, hey, you can take responsibility and role, and they've been given that authority to do it. We're going to hit a ceiling sooner or later, right? Now, talk a bit about who you serve internally and externally. Who do you need to make sure on a daily basis that you're empowering, that their lives are better because Josh is in it?
I think that on a daily basis, first internally, it's crazy to say, but it's everybody. It starts with everybody. Our frontline folks are really who we need to empower and look at first. They're the ones that see our customers on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's very important to empower and give them the ability to be able to make decisions and quickly solve problems and take care of our customers. I think it starts there. I do think it needs to be a top-down approach too. We need to have it at all levels, not just one level or two levels. So I think that at every single level, we try to the best we can to make sure that everyone in the bank is empowered to do something. I know in my personal space, I'm focused on helping all of our small businesses grow and succeed in the community and being their financial partners, what I really am doing.
I can think of two specific names, both small business owners that have raved about their interaction with you. And both of them are really close friends to me. And one you've known for a long time, and the other one you've just gotten to know over the last few years. So I appreciate the role you have in their lives. I'm going to do a real quick shout out. You talked about frontline. So there's a lady named Anna that is probably within 50 or 60 feet of where you're sitting right now. And she's amazing. And we love the interaction that we have with her. So that empowerment, what you've given her and the impact and how that cascades to everybody that she touches is a big deal. So well done in talking through that.
Thank you.
So talk to me about, this is unique for Pioneer because I know behind the scenes what they are. Talk to me about, for you first, personally, what's one of the core values that you've held most dear and how you've worked to model that for the folks that you interact with daily, whether it's your team, your kids, your wife, your family, the community, whoever that is, anybody that experiences Josh.
I would have to say integrity, and it happens to be one of the bank's core values, but it truly is one of mine. I strive to walk and talk integrity in everything that I do. I believe in trust, building that with clients, friends, and my family on a daily basis. That's something I've always kind of grew up on and just always believe in, that you've got to start with integrity. And I really do try to make that a mission of mine on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you've already connected it. So talk about how, as you've been with Pioneer approaching 2 years now, talk about how you saw that alignment and you felt like, hey, this is the right fit and this is an opportunity that I'm willing to accept that leadership responsibility.
Yeah, I definitely found that alignment because that was something that it took me quite a while to make the decision to come to Pioneer Bank, and studying many areas of the bank financially and its values, its leadership team. And when I saw the values and what they meant to me, it really connected to me and hit home. Our core values that we have at Pioneer Bank really hit me personally.
We've loved the interaction through that process and seeing how the integrity, the community, and the excellence are really continuously embedded. And really, you're working through the process of how do we live them out. I don't want to force you to talk about that story, but man, I hope you share a little bit about that story. Give me an example of a project that as a company you guys have been a part of that's really made an impact.
Yes. I'll share something that, as you alluded to, more from something that impacted our internal community. Not, we do a lot outside in the community, but internally in 2025, we really looked in the mirror, if you will, and said, hey, we've got some core values. Are we really living these core values out, or are they just writing on the wall? And after much collaboration and discussion, we realized that, hey, I think that we're not really living our values out from a day-to-day standpoint. We really made a big initiative in 2025 to get everyone on board with our core values, which, as you said before, which is integrity, community, and excellence. We started two programs. One of them is what we call a spotlight program. And that's more of a peer recognition, to where a peer can recognize an employee for living a certain value, demonstrating a certain value when it comes to customer service, both external and internal. And we shout out those employees by email and on our internal intranet, and it kind of creates some excitement and buzz to everybody around for who's living our values. And the second program that we implemented was what we call a coin program. It's based on coins of color, bronze, silver, and gold. And those are more, they're very limited. So it's not that everybody gets one. That's not the point. It's really to recognize a very high level above the spotlight recognition of employees living out our core values on a daily basis. And those are handed out when the employee shows that they have done something and lived out a core value. So quarterly, along with that, those that have the coins will also get a monetary payment as well.
I love that. You know some of this, you don't know all of this yet. There's been a lot of plate spinning. We're working on a full implementation process for values optimization. It's going to be part of the overall arching people optimization system that we'll talk about more formally in 3 weeks and 2 days. Not that I'm counting, right? But it so ties in, it ties behavior, and it ties how do we do the spotlights and so much of that stuff, because having the words on paper is one thing, printing them on the wall or on t-shirts is one thing, but having them lived out's a different thing. And I just so respect that you guys put the time in last year to really calibrate, but then you followed through on it. So I love every aspect of what you're doing with it. And I'm thankful that we had an opportunity to have a little tiny hand in the process. And even if it was just stirring the pot, you make me happy. That's why we get out of bed each morning, brother.
Well, that's good. Thank you.
So with that said, you've had to, over the course of your career, you've had to invest time and energy and many times out of pocket money into developing yourself as a leader. Talk about how that value of integrity or whatever other personal core value that you've had has been that thing that you said, darn it, it's hard. I don't have time for it, but I don't have a choice. I've got to do this.
I feel that leadership is something that I have wanted to do early on, just something that kind of felt natural for me. And as I realized that, I also learned that leadership is never perfected. I think very early on in my career, I learned that. And I think getting involved with anything and everything I could when it comes to training, whether that's webinars, seminars, development, that's been big for me. I appreciate everything that you all do, your resources that you have, all your online resources that you have, every program that you put on. I find it just very valuable to be able to sit down with other people, collaborate, learn from how they may do things and discuss and share ideas. And that's just been something I really enjoy doing. And I try to do that more often than not.
Thanks for that. I'm going to keep on that theme. So, folks catching this may or may not recognize that you did something very, very special to help me out. And I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to do it again in 3 weeks and 2 days. And the first part of it was you were willing to be a contributor to the values advantage. You wrote a segment that's in the final chapter called Real World Examples. It's really intentional, Josh, about who are the folks that I've seen in leadership roles take on the responsibility of actively modeling and actively identifying and actively making sure that their teams really exemplified and lived their core values to their team. You talked about that. Based on what you know about that whole idea of the values advantage and how important it is, what do you see as potential for organizations to gain from actively engaging in the 2026 Leadership Legacy event that's coming up in 3 weeks and 2 days as we have this conversation live in the community? And depending on when you're accessing this, maybe it's a little bit later, but what do you see as the opportunity that folks can really take on if they can crystallize their values, they can model them for their teams, and then they can make sure that their teams live them in the communities they serve?
I believe it's a real gut check moment for someone to evaluate where their business may be. It's a kind of a self-reflection into the success of their business and their employees. When you think about it, it's not just them, it's not their business. Most importantly, it's their employees and who works for them. I think we can all sit there at some point and think things are great. And then we ask ourselves, are they really? Maybe they aren't. I would say most of the time we're very distracted and blinded with so many things that we forget to focus on our core, the core of our business. And I have been there. I know that. And when you engage in the material, the programs, your book, I feel that this is a jumpstart for somebody. And I think that they need to be involved. It's a jumpstart to say, hey, let's get this going. Let's do it.
Yeah, we had a call with Mark Cole, who's going to be the wrap-up keynote speaker, and he does this all over the world. So much of what Maxwell Leadership does is on values as well. And while we work with them, we're not using content from them, except for what Mark's bringing in, right? but he talked about the importance of how we need to make sure we have our own personal values, and how many people that he experiences worldwide just have never taken the time to really identify their own. Josh, if I'm being honest, there was a long time in my life I knew abstract, here's what I valued, but I didn't have it crystallized. And Cindy and I went through that. I know you've talked about yours, we've talked about banks, but a lot of people don't. And if they do, the heavens can open up, right? It can be so powerful.
I truly believe that. I would probably be in the same boat as you, Wes. I think at some point I may have thought they were there, but it's kind of the career has moved on, and knowing what you know now, you realize, oh, well, maybe not. But I think with all the invested time and things that you do, it's nice to get to a point where you actually are living and know what those values are.
Yeah. Cindy and I had a friend a couple of months ago say to us that, gosh, it seems like you guys have really good friendships with so many of the people that you work with today. And I said, well, we do, and written about, we talk a lot about values, but the reality is so many of the organizations are so in lockstep values wise, even if the words aren't the same. Our values aren't integrity, community, and excellence like yours, but at its core, our values are aligned, right? And if that's the case, then we found, gosh, we can have really strong friendships with these folks that we're serving as clients as well. And the reality, Josh, is if we don't have similar aligned values, I'm not sure. Not only do I not want to be friends, I'm not sure I want to work with folks if their values are off the chart. And that might sound mean, but damn, it just makes life a lot easier when they're aligned.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. As I get older and grumpier, that's just, we need to be aligned. And when we are, we can have a lot of fun. But if we're not, we're going to fight along the way. It's not fun. Let's take that out of the equation. Josh, the last formal question that I'm and then I'm going to talk about or toss one other at you that's not scripted because I want a very extemporaneous response. The last formal question I ask is always, when you're talking with somebody that wants to take on leadership responsibility, grow in their career and in their profession and take on leadership, not supervisory, not management. It's synonymous, really lead. What advice are you giving them to grow as a leader?
Immerse yourself in everything that you can early on. I think getting involved in leadership development, sitting on nonprofit boards, volunteering, networking, go meet some great mentors out in the community that you can really attach yourself to. I've done that, and I think it works. It's very good for you. You learn a lot. You learn a lot from that. I did that very early on in my career. I jumped into all that stuff very early on. And I think at times I would just remind people it can seem very overwhelming at times, but I think the more you put into it, the more you're going to get from it. And it's going to work out for you in the end. And I would just highly encourage people to just go out, jump in, get involved, and do everything that you can do.
Yeah, I love that, Josh. I love that you said it can overwhelm you, and it 100% can. And transparently, having done it for a long time, there's still times that it overwhelms me, but I know it's that necessary. I don't think I've even shared this with you. I've got a book written that I'll have to do all the editing and the crazy stuff that goes with it that'll come out early next year. That's going to be called Leveraging Leadership Growth, Strength Through Great Professional Relationships. And it's around the idea of, Josh, you've known me for a long time. I'm not very much, but man, I've had some great people in my life. And because of that, I feel a heavy obligation that I need to make sure I'm passing it forward. Because without those relationships, without chasing a lot of those relationships, I'd be probably a drunk guy running the press on second shift at best if I'm still alive. You've got to chase it. Well done, sir. Now, the last informal question I'm asking, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think through it, talk through what's in the show notes and where folks can access stuff, is what have I not asked you that I should have? What do you want to make sure that really gets out there for anybody catching this, whether it's live in the community, on our podcast in the platform over there where it's just audio, or even in the 2026 Leadership Legacy digital game plan that will come with folks and VIPs and the other folks at the event to take advantage of it? What have I not asked you that you want to make sure we share? Now, think about that as you do. In the show notes, wherever you're accessing this, you'll see links to connect with Josh and Pioneer Bank. And that's very important to me because they're amazing, great team. And Josh provides a high level of service. So their website's there, their Facebook and LinkedIn links are in the show notes, as well as Josh's LinkedIn profile. So connect with Josh, learn more about Pioneer Bank, the other things that you see in the show notes, or are links to the 2026 Leadership Legacy Experience, as well as a link to the Values Advantage book, where it's all on all the Amazon platforms and whatever. But the reality is you can learn about who contributed and some of that other stuff. So Josh, what have I not asked you that I should have?
I don't know about what you haven't asked. I'll just make some comments if you're okay with that. I would just say as an employee, make sure that you're letting your employer know that you're willing to try and learn and want to learn, and just take every opportunity that they give you. I think that's very important. I think sometimes it's easy to sit on the sideline or the bench, if you will, and just go do what you're supposed to do. But letting them know how eager you are to learn, I think is very important. I think you will find that most of the great leaders will catch on to that very quickly and really help you succeed in your career. I would just say, don't hold back. And I would say as a leader, don't stop. Don't stop. I think that the best thing you can do is keep learning. I've always been told that you should learn something new every day. And I've always tried to live that, whether it's something extremely simple or it's something extremely hard. I think learning something new every day is very important. And that goes hand in hand with learning how to be a leader.
Yeah. And if you're not,
Yeah.
and the day you decide, hey, I am where I'm going to be, well, that's fine. You just sacrifice leading from that point. 100%. Josh, I don't remember what leadership growth book, but there's a place in there that I say, hey, best and the most successful folks that have ever been willing to mentor me are the ones that I naturally thought, well, they don't have time for me. But I ask anyway, and they've said, yeah, hey, there's going to be several that are on the panel. Matter of fact, I don't know that anybody that's involved with the event are not people that I look to for mentorship in some way, shape, or form, you include, because it stretches me so much for the folks that are involved, the Mark Coles, the Jorge Velasquez, the Craig Johnsons, the Josh Hales, the Josh Stevens, the Jordan Roars, everybody involved in this event, I'm looking to and going, holy crap, I'm thrilled with the people that I get to interact with. It's just an amazing blessing in my life. So thank you for sharing. Josh, I really appreciate the interaction through this with you. Is there anything else that you want to toss out? Keep throwing things out like that. We can do it for the rest of the afternoon.
No, I'm good here. I just appreciate the opportunity, Wes. You and Cindy are fantastic. I just can't thank you enough for all you've done for Pioneer Bank and myself personally, and really, honestly, the community. I think it's great. I really look forward to the event coming up in 3 weeks and 2 days. So I look forward to being a part of it. Pioneer Bank looks forward to being a part of it, and just appreciate the opportunity that you've given me too, Wes. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and it's very mutual, my friend. So wherever you're catching this, Josh, first and foremost, thanks for taking the time to do it. Anybody out there, wherever you're catching this, whether it's in the Leading at the Next Level community, it's on the Leading at the Next Level podcast, or through the digital game, Dove Development Consulting has been a recertification provider for the Society for Human Resource Management and the Human Resource Certification Institute since 2020. So half a dozen years. And we've got a ton of content out there that Josh alluded to earlier that is indeed digital and so on. If you've got a need for continuing education, send me an email at admin@dove-development.net, and we'll hook you up with a kick the tires trial and even some discounts and so on. We want to bless you. There's different tiers that we've broken into. How can we serve you? But more importantly, how can we give you tools that really impact culture, profitability, and the productivity of the organization so you can make a bigger impact on your teams and the communities you serve? Josh, thanks for taking the time. Anybody out there, look forward to seeing you at the 2026 Leadership Legacy Experience. Make it a great day, and God bless.